just do it.
Good morning, guys, and welcome to Unique Not Different with me, Shamla. And today I have the project officer of the UNFPA, Mr. Alexander Gittens, and I also have the executive officer of the Blind Welfare Association, Mr. Kenneth Surratt, here to talk about initiative. Actually, a landmark review is being done in partnership with the UN, Trinidad and Tobago. And this initiative or project is actually going to focus on 3 key pieces of legislation. And it is hoped that this will be implemented in Trinidad and Tobago to address discrimination. So good morning, team, and how are you?
Good morning, Shamla.
Good morning, Shamla. How are you? And good morning to Trinidad and Tobago.
I'm fine.
Good morning.
So I'll start with Mr. Gittens. So Mr. Gittens, why focus? What are the 3 key pieces of legislation, and what actually stemmed this initiative in terms of to focus on discrimination for persons with disabilities?
Right. So we are going to be focusing on legislation, the Equal Opportunity Act, the Education Act, and of course the Mental Health Act. And we are going to do so because the Equal Opportunities Act, although it speaks to disabilities, the language is vague and open to much interpretation. It also places the burden of responsibility on persons with disabilities as opposed to service providers or institutions. And so we feel that needs to be looked at a little closer. The Education Act does not mention disabilities. Instead, it speaks to special schools, which in itself is contested and open for discrimination. And so that needs to be clear. It needs to the definition of special schools is also unclear. And the Mental Health Act speaks to access to care and treatment of persons, mentally ill persons, and how they access and are admitted to treatment. Unfortunately, some persons with disabilities are incorrectly categorized as mentally ill because of poor understanding of disabilities and therefore subjected to unnecessary treatment as a result of how they are classified. So we want to look at those 3 pieces of legislation.
What type of gap analysis was done to show, these 3 key pieces of legislation take precedence over other pieces of legislation? Because holistically, as you would know, persons with disability have no legislation currently in Trinidad and Tobago. So what type of gap analysis was done, and what do you think the impact could be?
Right, so in the inception phase of this project, in preparation for this, the implementation phase, we did a stakeholder analysis where we drew on the information, the knowledge of a wide cross-section of the population, government, civil society, academia, and most importantly, persons with disabilities and organizations working with organizations of persons with disabilities. And we identified a number of gaps in legislation, in reasonable accommodations, in the way we do budgeting, and especially data surrounding persons with disabilities. You can't budget and prepare and provide services for persons you don't even know exist, or how many, or where they are, what type of disabilities. And so we identified a number of gaps.
Okay, and Mr. Surratt, how has the disability community been so far involved in this initiative?
So far, the disabled community, we have been involved at all levels. And we also put out a signal out there. If anybody felt left out, contact me, contact Mr. Gittens, and we'll try to get you on board, because moving this project forward, we want every single organization, individual, come on board, because this is a journey towards getting specific legislation to protect persons with disabilities. So it's just a journey. The 3 pieces of legislation we are proposing is just part of the journey. But I'm guaranteeing within the shortest space of time, we are making every effort to make sure we have specific legislation to protect persons with disabilities. It is a challenge and we will overcome.
And based on your knowledge in this project, right? What type of impact do you expect, and what are something key that needs to be done to create this impact?
One of my main takeaway is awareness, because for too long, the persons with the disabilities appear to be the problem. But when I do my own research, the problem is the perception people have about persons with disabilities. Because most of my friends, before they meet me, when they analyze, but they didn't know I could do this or I could do that. But now, soon as they meet you as someone with a disability, they overcome that. So my biggest takeaway, I want to make sure we have a high level of awareness, and the problem is not the disabled person or the person with disability. It is the environment and person's own ideas in their head and their perceptions of persons with disability. So if our big takeaway is to lift that awareness and lift the expectation that persons, parents or children, whoever is disabled, lift your expectation. You could achieve, you could contribute to Trinidad and Tobago to make this an inclusive, sustainable, and accessible society for all of us.
Mr. Gittins, a US of 300,000 multi-trust fund was given for this initiative, was granted for this initiative. How is that money being used in terms of budgeting for this project?
Right. So the project is being implemented by 2 UN agencies, the Pan American Health Organization, PAHO, and the United Nations Population Fund, UNFPA, with oversight from the Resident Coordinator's Office. And the aim is to conduct a number of workshops and trainings to train and inform persons, gather information and perspectives, various views from across the length and breadth of the country. And it involves state agencies, civil society, the wider academic community, UN agencies, and most importantly, organizations of persons with disabilities, to build their capacity so that they can advocate on their own behalf and speak with a strong voice. And we plan to do this over a period of 2 years.
Awesome. And Mr. Surratt, what, in terms of the long run, how, in terms of implementation, right? How, how, in terms of impact and implementation, where would you like this project to reach in terms of who it should reach in order to be most effective in terms of implementing?
One of the key things we want to take away here is the life cycle, and the person with disability should enjoy the full life cycle like everyone else. They must be able to go to school, they must be able to be employed, enjoy transport, enjoy property, life, and liberty. And once we get that done, we all will be happy and the project will be successful. I'm not saying that this project is the end of it all, but it is part of the journey and we will achieve it.
Mr. Gittins, what is the UNFPA along with the UN in Trinidad and Tobago plan on doing after this initiative is, this project is completed in terms of getting it, as I mentioned, properly implemented and effective, apart from, because a lot of projects is being done, but it also happened that it just sit there waiting to be implemented or legislated. So what are your plans in terms of getting it, I guess, to those in authority that would actually effectively implement it in Trinidad and Tobago?
Yes, thank you. That's very important. The stakeholders of this project include government partners, key ministries and departments. And so we feel that this is a collaborative exercise. And once all the parties are made aware of the issues and challenges facing the community of persons with disabilities, we are sure that we will move in the right direction. We will have the necessary legislation and changes to legislation, and the target community will benefit.
And how can persons reach out for more information?
Right, so you can, of course, contact me or Mr. Surratt, and I can be reached at agittins@unfpa.org. So you can send me an email and we will take it from there.
Awesome. And Mr. Surratt, can you give your information?
I just want them to call me at 718-6373, because WhatsApp or text. I usually return all calls and return all WhatsApp messages.
Mr. Gittins and Mr. Surratt, thank you so much for coming and sharing this initiative. And I really hope that it proves to be successful in the end. So it will actually, shrink the gap in terms of discrimination against persons with disability, and we see the impact and the effectiveness, especially for children with disability, to have a better future. So thank you, and I hope that in the end you come back and share some good news with us with regards to this project. Guys, and with that being said,
thank you very much.
You're welcome. I want to say
Thank
you so much. Awesome. Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's segment of Unique Not Different. Until next week, guys. We're good. Now we are on to a break. Bye, guys.